What is the greatest "fuck it, I'll do it myself" in history? Juan Pujol Garcia was a Spaniard who created his own counter-intelligence operation for the Allies during WW2. Initially he approached British and American intelligence offering them his services, but both countries rebuffed him. Undeterred, Garcia created a fictional persona as a pro-fascist Spanish official and got himself recruited by the Nazis, who directed him to travel to Britain to recruit agents. Instead, Garcia created a network of fictitious agents and sub-agents using publicly available information like newspapers and travel brochures. It was at this point that he again contacted Allied intelligence, and was finally recruited. Garcia continued his work throughout the war, and received both a knighthood from the British and the Iron Cross for the same operation. The Nazis never realized that he was a double agent. Not only that, he also fed the Nazis huge amounts of just wrong enough information to lead them into disasters, and every time he fed them correct and valuable information it was just a bit too late for it to be helpful. One time he came under suspicion for not reporting some info that he should have had access to, but he saved his ass by saying that the fictitious agent who would have had to give him the info had been discovered and killed. He then asked for a pension for the widow. By the end of the war he was collecting pensions for multiple made-up widows. He was also assigned to send some actual useful information on the Normandy landings to the Germans, though too late to be of effective use, but the Germans screwed and didn't answer his 3 a.m. radio call until 8 a.m., well after the landings had started. Not only was he then able to add more details, increasing his credibility, but he also chastised the German radio operators for their carelessness. "I cannot accept excuses or negligence. Were it not for my ideals I would abandon the work." Dude was talking about ideals when thoroughly double-crossing them every step of the way. And he got paid some $340,000 for the whole thing. Barry Marshall is a superstar. He rightly received the Nobel Prize for Medicine for his research into H. pylori. Apart from identifying the cause and easy cure for ulcers, it turns out that nearly all stomach cancer was caused by H. pylori. That can now be largely stopped as a terminal illness. Barry's special cocktail has saved many lives. He gets my vote for Australian of the Century. Edit, actually maybe second top Australian. Howard Florey figured out how to make medical quantities of penicillin, also got the Nobel Prize, and subsequently saved 200 lives. So that's pretty good. Source, my wife is a gastroenterologist and says he's a true hero. Dashrath Manji is a man who single-handedly cut a mountain in half in order to make a passage between his tiny village and the city on the other side of the mountain. He did this because you would have to either climb or go around the mountain to get to the doctor. His wife was wounded and died while he was trying to fetch the doctor. He vowed to not rest until he could make a passageway for the doctor to easily reach the village. It took him 22 years, but he turned a 55 km journey into a 15 km journey. He had help from time to time, but many thought him insane, but it worked. Unfortunately, it was only after his death in 2007 that the government got its ass together and built more roads and made the pass safer. In 2016 he was honored with a set of stamps bearing his personage. He sacrificed so much to help the village he loved. In the Indian mathematician Ramanujan's early life, he posted a question on how to solve a specific infinite equation in the Journal of the Indian Mathematical Society. After not getting a reply for 6 months, he just solved it himself. He was essentially self-taught. Undoubtedly one of the most brilliant minds to have ever lived on this planet, he could immediately see connections and relationships that other skilled mathematicians couldn't. He claimed that many of his proofs were divinely revealed to him in dreams. He essentially invented his own conventions in mathematics, and spent a long time sending out his findings to professional mathematicians, but most ignored him, thinking that he was writing nonsense because most of it went over their heads. A mathematician named G.H. Hardy finally recognized his potential and had him brought to Britain. He became a Fellow of both the Royal Society and of Trinity College at Cambridge. Without formal schooling, during some of the worst parts of British imperialism in India. A century after his death, mathematicians are still analyzing his notes and finding new identities and theorems. He also laid the groundwork mathematics for elliptic curve theory, which has brought us both cryptography and the proof for Fermat's last theorem. So you have him to thank, at least in part, for the Internet. Makes you wonder how many people like this are being squandered in backwoods villages with no hope of getting a proper education. How about Dr. Giles Brindley? Giles 𝐸𝐿 Brindley, MD-FRS, born April 30, 1926, is a British physiologist, musicologist and composer, known for his contributions to the physiology of the retina and color vision, treatment of erectile dysfunction, and is perhaps best known for an unusual scientific presentation at the 1983 Las Vegas meeting of the American Urological Association, where he removed his pants to show the audience his chemically induced erection and invited them to inspect it closely. He had injected phenoxybenzamine using 1 milliliter into his penis in his hotel room before the presentation. "Yeah, everyone gather round and look at my pee-pee. Look, see, it's all chemically induced, yeah. Go on. Touch it. Tug, yeah, don't stop." That reminds me of an old joke. A deaf couple has a problem about communicating whether or not they want to have sex, because after they turn out the lights, they can't sign to each other. After a period of frustration, one day they discuss how to communicate their desires in the dark. The wife says, "Honey, if you are in the mood to have sex, squeeze one of my boobs once, and twice if not." The husband's, "Okay, dear, and if you are in the mood to have sex, yank on my dick once, and if not, yank on it 200 times. 𝐦𝐲𝐬𝐿 took the town of Zwolle, Netherlands, on his own, from the Germans during WW2. Not only that, but he'd previously, a month prior, broken his back, several ribs, and both ankles. And during that battle, single-handedly fought 8 SS officers in hand-to-hand combat, killing 4. Also, about a year prior he'd lost an eye, killing 4 other SS officers when one ignited an incendiary grenade, so he was doing this with only one eye. Also, he rejected a Distinguished Conduct Medal because he believed General Montgomery was incompetent. He later fought in Korea, where he and 18 men recaptured a hill where the U.S. Infantry Division nearby had tried and failed several times. He and his men then held the Chinese counterattack off all night, practically bombarding himself in the process. Major was the sort of badass that would have made John Rambo say, "Fuck that guy as one hard-ass motherfucker," except Major was real. Absolute legend. Ain't let nobody say Canada hasn't got fight. 𝐦𝐲𝐬𝐿 has one of the best lines. Loses an eye in war and just laughs it off, saying that his new eye patch makes him look like a pirate. Days later, during his first encounter with an SS patrol, he killed 4 soldiers, however, one of them managed to ignite a phosphorus grenade. After the resulting explosion, Major lost one eye, but he continued to fight. He continued his service as a scout and a sniper by insisting that he needed only one eye to sight his weapon. According to him, he looked like a pirate. When Teddy Roosevelt wanted to be in the army to fight in the Spanish-American War, but they wouldn't take him since he was pretty much blind, so he became a volunteer for the U.S. Army and created a unit made up of rich playboys that he went to school with and a bunch of cowboys he became friends with when he went on a soul-finding journey. They used a private yacht to go overseas. Do what you can with what you have where you are, Teddy Roosevelt. Nice post. This is not even it. In 1906, when he tried to institute a fitness test for the military, he received complaints from officers that the test was too stringent. So Teddy took the test himself and passed with flying colors. Teddy, fuck it, I will do it myself, Roosevelt. Source. Thor Heyerdahl, a Norwegian adventurer, and ethnographer, went on the Kon-Tiki expedition in 1947 to prove the Norwegian embassy that it was possible the Polynesian islands were populated from ancient civilizations from South America. So he and his 3 friends constructed a simple raft of wooden logs and sailed from South America to the Pacific Islands only using the currents in the Pacific. Oh, and they documented the whole expedition and later won an Oscar. Stanislav Petrov, manning a Soviet missile defense system during a very tense period of the Cold War, looked at an alert from the computer that claimed that the US had just launched nukes at the USSR, said, "Fuck it, this computer is wrong, I'll decide if we're being attacked, and I decide no," and didn't sound the alarm for a counterattack, against his standing orders. He was correct, and single-handedly stopped the Cold War from becoming a nuclear war. First, the system detected only 1 missile, so he rejected that because first strike would be hundreds of missiles, but then later, 4 missiles were detected, from beyond the range the Russian radars could detect. But again, 4 missiles wasn't enough, and the radars that were detecting them couldn't detect missiles from so far away. This is why it's so important to have experts in key positions. You could have any monkey-brained idiot trained to sound the alarm when the screen says missile, but an expert can say, hold on, none of this data makes any fucking sense, and avoid catastrophe. Thank you for watching. I hope that you liked this video. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this one.